Shout out to G-Man Boxing.
All right, people. So, Conor Benn gave an interview with Piers Morgan. Now, I had planned on not watching this because Piers Morgan is just. I don't like Piers Morgan. Without guys, don't want to rant, but Piers Morgan, not a likable character at all. Really not a likable character. So, for that reason, I really didn't want to watch this interview. I really didn't want to watch it just because I just don't like Piers Morgan. But I kind of thought, look, I want to have a look at it, give my 2 cents on it, at least make a video and just kind of just see, right? Now, Morgan, to his credit, he did push the whole, Conor Benn was mentioning in this interview with Piers Morgan, that he had the 270-page dossier, he'd spent loads of money, world-class scientists, etc., to prove his innocence. And he said that that dossier does prove his innocence. And Piers Morgan, very much so, he wasn't letting it go. He was basically saying to Conor Benn, well, if it does prove your innocence, why don't you just present it to the British Boxing Board of Control? Let them review it, have a look at the evidence, and if it is as, comprehensive and as clear-cut as you say it is, then surely it should be a simple case of, there you go. Now, Conor Benn, to his credit, he did say there was legal things involved. Now, what they are, I don't know. Potentially could it be him suing the British Boxing Board of Control, and for that reason, because he talked about doing that. Now, whether he's already started going down that road, that I do not know. But that was the bit I did find strange. I think that's the bit we've all found strange about this whole thing, that apparently that dossier, which according to Conor Benn proves his innocence, it, for some reason, he doesn't seem to want to give it to the British Boxing Board of Control, or is unwilling to present that to the British Boxing Board of Control in UCAD. The whole Conor Benn situation I did find strange. Between the WBC claiming it was eggs and Conor Benn stating it was never eggs, but them using that as the reason for the fail, which, I don't know, that whole thing is just strange. This whole situation, certainly from Conor Benn and his PR team, has been handled appallingly. I mean, I don't think anyone can dispute that from a PR point of view, this has been horrendous from Conor Benn, this whole ordeal. And from what I've seen, the Piers Morgan interview, the majority of people have more questions than they do answers. It really is a strange one to me. Now, obviously, there was more said from Conor Benn in that interview with Morgan. He obviously talked about the effect that everything has had on him. Not going to go into that. Nigel Benn was on for a little bit as well. And interestingly, Nigel Benn said that he'd like the dossier to be sent on to the British Boxing Board of Control as well. So, again, it left me with more questions than answers, the whole Piers Morgan interview. It really did. And I wanted to see was other guys on YouTube talking about it as well, because I watched it just this morning. And I was kind of like, well, all right, Morgan was pushing the envelope a lot on the dossier and why doesn't it go to the board, etc. But I felt by the end I was like, it's just I didn't do anything. I just got more questions than I do anything else. And I was watching Joe Stunner's video on this because he, a bit like me, doesn't particularly like Piers Morgan, but he sat down and watched it as well. And what I found interesting, he has a theory. I'm not saying I subscribe to this theory necessarily, but it's an interesting one. And his theory is that Conor Benn maybe unknowingly ingested clomiphene, because Conor Benn is disputing the fact that clomiphene was ever in his system. And what he's trying to say is that maybe people in his team had, put him on whatever dietary plan or whatever proteins, and unbeknownst to Conor Benn, they're putting things, not saying they're deliberately doing it, Deontay Wilder claiming about Mark Breland, but they're not being the ones looking after what's going into his body. So for Conor Benn, it's a case of, well, I've never eaten, an egg product. I've never eaten anything like this. So why is this in my system? Because Conor Benn's obviously not going to be the one who's being the nutritionist who's going to look with a fine-tooth comb and go through everything he eats. It's the team who are going to be doing that, because he feels as though with the way Benn has been so adamant about his innocence, it strikes, you can't dispute that that's being in his system. He's got 2 failed drugs tests, obviously. We know that, so we can't dispute that. But the way he's been speaking about it, it implies that he really was the unknown party in this, that, you know, if we know it was in his system, it wasn't ingested knowingly by him, in a sense of it wasn't a case of, you know, oh, well, you know, these eggs may have potential traces of this, but he's not eating eggs. Maybe someone in his team just knows, well, with this particular supplement has this in it, say nothing and hope we can get through it. Maybe that was it. Now, I'm not saying I necessarily buy into that per se, but it is an interesting theory that Joe Stunner put around there, that one of the reasons why Conor Benn has been so animated, protesting his innocence so much, is because, for him, and of course, maybe if that was the case, his team are going to come out and say, oh, we messed up. We messed up here, you know, and potentially, you know, get the chop. So that is an interesting theory, definitely. This whole situation, it is strange. It really is. I mean, Conor Benn, he's talked about, you know, not going for his license again and not fighting in the UK again. He could potentially do it under a different license, but have the board put things in place after the David H. Chisora fight a decade ago now to make it as though you can't do that. I don't know. It's an interesting one. In terms of him moving forward with his career, there's always going to be that hanging over him, and he's talked about, you know, the comments people have said, etc., etc. I really don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. You know, I really don't. I think that if he did go around and give that dossier to the British Boxing Board of Control and they did give him the seal of approval, you'll obviously still have people who will say he's guilty, etc. But if I think it would look more, it would do better for his image if he did. Personally, I think from a PR point of view, it probably would look better for him if he just said, right, look, let's just draw a line in the sand. Here's my bit. You make a decision. Find me innocent. Happy days. I'm not saying they will, but, you know, hypothetically, find me innocent. Happy days. We can all move on. I think that would help a lot. I don't think fighting an ancient Manny Pacquiao in Dubai or somewhere like that would really help at all, win or lose, to be honest with you. But he gave the interview with Piers Morgan. It's an interesting listen. It's an interesting listen. Personally, for me, I felt I left it with more questions than I did have answers, personally. And I had to listen to Piers Morgan, which is always... Never, I wouldn't wish that on one of my worst enemies, to have to listen to Morgan. Horrible individual. He really is. He really, truly is. I mean, Jesus. You don't even... You know, you couldn't do it on YouTube because, you know yourself with algorithms and stuff like that, but you could do a whole episode on Piers Morgan for, like, not necessarily true crime or just the horrible person he is. You really could. Piers Morgan, absolutely just horrible. But that's my thoughts on the whole Conor Benn, Piers Morgan interview. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. It'll be interesting to know what people's thoughts are. Did you watch it and how did you feel Conor Benn came across in it? How did you feel that some of the questions that Morgan was asking him were good and they were getting to the bottom of it, or did you feel as though actually I left it with a lot more questions than I did have answers? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video, people. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. For now, lads and lassies, I'll leave you with that. I'll talk to you. Peace.